thank you both for joining me for this very special, maybe a Bella Lugosi edition, since Kelly and
Yes,
I were
Bella's
figuring out
birthday today, or the day we're
Yeah.
recording. So pretty cool.
141 years young is what we calculated. Yeah, so thank you to
Well,
Kelly Jones and Matt Wagner for being here. Kelly, go ahead.
thank you. No, I'm pleasure to be here. Glad to talk about this.
Yeah, yeah, glad to have you both. And I was trying to think, how do I compliment these two creators? And I was thinking, if I were teaching a course in modern comics, both of you would be on the syllabus.
Yeah,
Totally
right
Well,
indispensable.
that's good. I'm glad to hear that. On
Absolutely.
how to or how not to.
How to, how to, the
on.
positives. I tend to
Okay.
focus on the positives.
Okay, on the
Um,
positive. I'll take that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So appreciating the nook that you're in. We were talking about that, Kelly, right before I hit record. I'm just in a digital nook, so this is,
Yes, I
faux
remember the
background.
digital nook. Yeah.
Yes,
Kelly,
yes.
you're even costumed. You even have a Dracula t-shirt on.
Yes, I do. Ready to go.
That is branding right there. It is
Yes.
marketing efficiency.
I feel like
Um,
I'm ill-equipped.
I got Bella right here. Got my shirt. Yes.
That's it. That's it. So the project that the two of you have collaborated on, sort of the Captain Planet now of Gothic visual literature is the way I'm thinking about it. Your powers combined is Dracula Book One, The Impaler, which I imagine a lot of folks out there have seen since New York Comic Con. And I imagine you've had a busy week since that happened.
Not as busy as the one to come, but
Yeah. It's
yes, we have.
yeah.
And I should point out that it is book one out of we'll be doing four of these. A
Love
series
it.
of four graphic novels, and I absolutely want to stress this is not an adaptation of the original novel into yet another adaptation of comic book form. There's many of those already.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
what we're doing is telling the story behind the stories that are kind of lurking around the shadows of the original novel, because the original novel creates what you could argue is the most famous character in all of literature, Dracula. And and he's such a magnetic and indelible presence, and yet for a huge portion of the novel, he's off stage.
Yeah.
He's more threatening, mysterious force the heroes are forced to contend with, and are that he's kind of a haunting presence. But there's a lot of evocative hints of his history and his life and his actions. So we're telling the stories that are in and around the original novel. So we will not be depicting anything that's in the novel.
Love it.
Um, and this first volume is basically Dracula's origin story, how Vlad III, the voivode, the warlord of ancient Wallachia, 15th century Wallachia,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
becomes a vampire.
And it's a
Yeah.
fascinating
I
history.
think what was amazing to me is I've read a lot
Hmm.
of read Dracula several times, know all the films, know all the stuff. And when Matt first told me about this, like he was just saying, well, they've done this a million times. I know Matt though, so I'm thinking, all right, what is it? And I said it, I've said it. It was like he says, do you have time to hear this? Because it wasn't just like some 20-second pitch he was going to do. He says, do you have time? So I knew, okay, he thought about this.
Hmm.
And it was like a guy telling you a ghost story, because it just got more involved and more involved. And it was so interesting, him just telling it to me. And it took a while for him to do it, but I was mesmerized. I was like I kept mentally going, I have not thought of that before. That's a great angle. It was
Hmm.
brand new territory. So when he was done, he says, well, what do you think? Do you want to do this? I said, absolutely. Because in my head, I was going, if I, who am into this, have not, this is like totally captivating me.
Hmm.
I knew I could do something with this. It would bring something out of me. It's brand new. And I knew even more so as a reader, this is going to be like uh, something really special. Because it's the same thing. After Matt had spoke for just a few moments, I went, where's this going? What is
Hmm.
this? And then he would tell more, and then he would say more. And when the script came, a couple months later, the script comes, and I read it like a book. I mean, it was like that. I wasn't thinking me. I wasn't thinking, wow, what do I have to do? What are the difficulties? What am I going to have to research? And no, nothing like that. I just sat down and read it and was like going, ooh, wow, oh my God. It's like that. And I'm going, that's exactly what you want someone who's going to pick it up to do it. Especially, okay, if you love Dracula or you love all things vampires, I know he and I are doing okay. But if you're looking, I like it because people are going to go, well, okay, let's see what they're going to do that's so different. And I'm like, you're going to see something that is so different.
Love it.
I like to point out that we're staying true to the novel, and of course, so many film versions have said that, made that claim,
Right,
and
right.
none of them are. Of course, the most recent one would be Coppola's version from back in 90, whatever that was. And of course, it's drastically different than the novel. This huge romance, between him and Mina that's not part of the novel at all.
Yeah.
Not even
right.
So we're trying to stick close to the novel, but again, only aspects of the novel, not the story itself. We're sticking close to the facts that are laid down and, as I said, hinted at.
Well, Matt nailed the character. So the character is the character. He is in total Vlad the Impaler mode, and at that point, you're seeing something authentic and sincere. No matter what we're doing, he's the guy. That's who it is. So when you get to know this character, his whole path becomes fascinating. And beyond just what you're there for, it's fascinating to see how this guy operates, what he's thinking, what his motivations are, and what he does with what he has to work with. His decisions shock me. And that's before we even get to what everyone's waiting for. And that's good stuff.
In keeping with the me pointing out that the romance between Dracula and Mina is not in the novel, our version isn't romanticized. I mean, he's a fucking monster. But much like even I mean, obviously, I have experience in portraying an unrepentant villain over a long epic saga. So
yes, absolutely.
Well-trod territory for me in a certain sense. But similar to like Hannibal Lecter, Hannibal's a monster, and yet you're charmed by him all the time, and there's a magnetism there, and you can see the human heart and the human brain that turned into a literal monster, and that's the approach we're taking. So
well, it makes him more monstrous to me. It makes him far more monstrous because he is human. It isn't. It's this man is making calculated decisions. You can see why he's making decisions. You can understand the situation he's in,
and how casually he just embraces the cruelty of the decision.
If there's cruelty involved, in fact, he probably wouldn't even see it as cruelty. But that's what makes him so cruel.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And yet you like him, and as you mentioned with the Hannibal Lecter connection, you're drawn to the monster.
Yeah.
Until he does things, and then it reminds you would stay away from this guy.
He's dangerous.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about sort of the enduring legacy of the character, and it sounds like you put a lot of thought and time into telling the story in a new way, taking up a new vision of the story, and really using the book, which my impression of the book in my mind is sort of like reading a letter. That's what I recall is it's epistolary.
It's what's known as an epistolary style, which means it's all in the letters, journals, newspaper articles, and such. We take the same approach here, but in the novel, there's all these different voices. There's, of course, Jonathan Harker's journals. There is Mina Murray, later Harker's journal. There is Dr. Seward's journal. The one big voice missing is Dracula. Ours is narrated by him. It's his personal journal. It's his version of his story. And it's very unflinching. He doesn't try and paint a better picture of himself. He he's very self-aggrandizing, of course, because that sort of character would be, but he gives it to you just straightforward, you know.
Mhm, mhm. What was the creative spark like for this, both in terms of the collaboration, as far as the two of you finding one another and connecting, but did a bat fly in the window? Was there a moment where you had a vision of the book in a new way?
It
I
had
always thought I would. I always thought I would do Batman with Matt. I had always thought it would be something at DC.
Hmm.
I thought it would be Batman, and that was from about when we first met in '92, because
well,
we
you
hit it
know,
off right at that moment.
Kelley and I have been friends, and all that time we really wanted to do something significant together someday.
Mhm.
We
Hmm.
kept
Hmm.
tossing that line back and forth to each other. We got to
Mhm.
do someday.
Yeah.
Day on Facebook, he was commenting on something I had posted, and he said, "We really got to do something someday." I contacted him and I said, "Okay, this time I got an idea. Are you serious? You really
Mhm.
are you looking for something this big? Because this is what I have in mind is going to take us several years to
Yeah.
fully bring to fruition." And
Hmm.
as he said, he expected to probably be Batman, you know. And I said, "Well, not quite."
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Just like, are you kidding? Awesome.
yeah, it was something where in lesser hands you'd roll your eyes, oh Dracula. When Matt said it, I went, okay, what's he gonna do? And
Hmm.
that's what I wanted, was what's he gonna do? It so far went beyond what I was expecting. And Matt kept saying, well, this is gonna kind of get bigger in the telling,
Hmm.
right? This is gonna be a real commitment once we start. And that was music to my ears, because I was like thinking, well, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Something you can get that involved with. It would be no different than if we were doing, Matt says, hey, let's do a 2-year run on Batman. It's the same thing. It's like, well, okay, fine.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, fine. This though is better because we're free.
Well, we're free, and also it appeals to the both of us so
Right,
much.
it does. And Matt can go,
This digs down to our dirty little dark hearts.
yes, Matt can go into those places that he would normally say, well, maybe I shouldn't. And he just says, yeah, I'm going to do it. With
Hmm.
me, I always am in that place where I'm like, oh, well, I always, and I'm free at this point. I always think I'll just do it. And if they tell me to take it away, okay. But if I don't do it, I'll always wonder. And I've been lucky that most of the times they just let it go. Here, I don't have to worry about that. I just go, I'm going to treat this probably the way Hammer Films did, because they had to be in the shadow of the Universal Classic. So they went color, they did blood, and they made a completely ferocious character in Lee's performance. So I went to it. I said, okay, I'm going to do that though, but for comics. That's how I'm going to approach it.
Yeah, and Jason, you're asking about the collaboration there. The entire time I'm writing the script, and it's true what Kelley said about it gets larger in the telling, because when we first started out, I sat down and I wrote out just an overview, like a brief paragraph about all 4 books. Like, here's
Hmm.
what happened here, and then of course once I actually start writing it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger in that first volume, you know. But the entire time I'm working on this script that Kelley's talking about, I'm constantly writing to what I think is like, this is a Kelley moment. This is going to be great. Kelley's going to draw this great. And then his art would come back, and it was so much better than I was hoping it could be. It was like, holy shit, yay! Just
Um,
fantastic
but
collaborative
you get
experience.
a lot of energy from that. And I remember just in him telling me this, and I never do this, never do this. I got off the phone with him when he told me. I went just on the phone. Here's my idea. I hung up the phone and I ran and told my wife, who's a total civilian, about this thing. Yeah, she's just total civilian. I said, you have to listen to this. And so I start telling her, what Matt just told me. And she's like, listen, she goes, because she knows Dracula. She's read that. She's a literature major, so she knows it. She's
Hmm.
going, that's really good. Oh, I never thought. And she was doing the same thing I was doing. She's going, yeah, I never thought of that. That's a good angle. Yeah, when he went to go, and all those same questions. And I said, yeah, but I get to draw it. It's like, that's the part.
I also love how delighted you are by each other in the process, because Kelley, you were saying that you got the script pages and read them like a novel, and
Mhm.
then Matt, you're saying when you get the pages back, drawn out and
Well, no,
explored.
just thank God, because we're friends. What if it sucked? You gotta, oh my God, but
And it hasn't
but
even get to that. And the other cool thing is I keep telling the people, even though Kel and I have known each other for years and we kept threatening to team up someday, when it finally happened, it felt like it had happened decades ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just a fluidity there that's just like the communication's just fabulous, and we're
Well, I hear his voice.
agent
I
almost
hear his voice when I'm reading it. I don't hear mine. I don't hear the characters. I hear Matt saying, "This is what I want. This is the angle," and that's infectious to me. That's really exciting. And it is. It's one of those things that I questioned nothing doing it. I kept thinking, man, this is like great jazz or whatever. Someone the other day asked me, and I'm going to say this in all the million interviews because yeah, it just came out of my mouth. And so this is the first time I'm saying it this way. It was in a written one, but I'll say it. Someone says, well, what is it like working with him? You know, what is that like? And I said, kind of what Matt said. I said, it feels very comfortable, whatever. I said, but imagine like Roger Waters and David Gilmour getting along, not but really getting along, like going, yeah, that's great, Dave. Hey, Roger, way to go. You know, that kind of thing. That's how it is, because there's this great edge to everything Matt does. It's and he has you worried. What is he gonna do now? Every page I was doing that, going, Jesus Christ, what's he gonna do? You know, it's just how can and this thing of how can Matt sustain this? Because he adds a layer to a layer to a layer, and then it comes to this satisfying conclusion, which leaves you for more, but it's self-contained. All the tricks of good writing are done here. So at that point, I'm going, all I have to do is what's in my head come down. Just let it go. There's no worry that some editor's going, you cannot draw this. You cannot say this. There was none of that.
Yeah, that's always great.
I didn't even worry about fans. I didn't even worry about readers. You know, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to, this is a story, grabs you by your collar and says, you're going to sit down and watch it. You're going to witness this. You're going to see this. You're going to bear witness to what someone's got to bear witness. You're the person. That's how intimate it is.
And Cal, following up on something you said earlier there, I mean, that's always been my approach, is that it has to thrill me first, you know, and if it thrill me, it's not going to thrill my readers, you know? And so I'm never really concerned with my readers. I'm just trying to like thrill myself, excite myself. I'm writing the sort of stuff I would want to read. You know?
But that's what makes you and I independent, Matt, because I do the same thing. I don't care how the character's been already established. I draw them the way I want. And you're doing that. And so that's why this works, is that you're doing it, I'm doing it. And we're both like, got our swords out back to back, fighting off the mainstream sensibility, right? And saying, not putting it down, but saying, you deserve more. You deserve something more. And we're not against something, we're pushing something forward. I'm not saying that as a aggrandizement. I'm saying that as a reality, and that's based on our careers. And that's why this is just flowing. Because right now, when you find a fellow traveler, it's like you've known him your whole life. And I have known Matt virtually most of my professional life. I remember when we first met, it was the same thing. I first met, I looked at him and I said, that's the dude who's doing all these books I'm loving. And I remember there's other people there, other peers, and I was just waiting for him to shut up. And then I could go over and say, you're the guy. Well, he was sizing me up too, because he was going, who the hell that's the guy? We were doing the same thing.
Well, I remember right away,
immediately.
We had such a common interest in horror fiction, and we had similar senses of humor. I mean, it all just clicked just perfectly, you know.
Well, Matt, I've described him as literary pulp.
Yeah,
it's very highbrow, and it's Roger Corman at the same time. It's like you'll see stuff. That's what I dig. I remember telling him once there was a couple of scenes that he had done in Grendel that were so upsetting to me, and I was jealous that I didn't get to draw it. I remember telling him these scenes, and I just said, man, that's exactly what comics should do. And that's why I was kicking myself. And when he said, do you mean it? Do you really want to? Because we've been talking about it. I was like, absolutely. there was nothing homogenized. There was nothing that I knew. He took tropes and said new things with these tropes. I want tropes, but I want new things with my tropes.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And
yeah, you want ice, but you want new flavors.
Yeah, and you want to. I never felt, this is rare, I never felt tired doing this. I could be all day at it, and I'm like going, but I got to see this done. I got to see this finished. And then, I always do a thing where just where the sun's going down, because I work in natural light, you get magic hour, and that's when I put a page on the table, and I get natural light in the room, and it all kind of it evens out. Everything blends, so you don't see the bizarreness of a page. You just see it finished almost. And every day I would come in and I'd tell, like I said, my poor civilian wife, and go, today was another day. And she would start saying to me, this is the happiest I've seen you.
I was going to say, Kelley, you told me that Lynn said, well, you must be working on Dracula today. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. She always can tell because I'll come down and I'll just be in a great mood. I won't be, it's like the frustration. I know this is going to be a problem. It's all, I'm just in a good mood. And she goes, what she loves, Matt's a great marriage counselor, because she goes, you should just work with Matt from now on, because you're making my life so much easier. It's making him so much easier.
Now, on my end, my wife was just getting tired of all the Dracula shit. I these Amazon things would come in, she's like, don't tell me it's another Dracula book. I was like, yes, it is.
Well, you never know, right? You never know.
I had to adopt a funny way of saying it, where I go, it's Dracula.
There you go. There you go. That makes the house life so much easier. Yeah. So it sounds like you both found a supportive collaboration flow, which I imagine there was a lot of blood flow as well on the pages and in the research. That was a corny joke. Sorry about that. So curious about the collaboration with Rob Leigh and José. I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, but I'll do my best. Villarrubia.
Villarrubia. Yep.
Villarrubia.
José really, I'll talk about José, and Kelley can talk about Rob, because Kelley kind of brought Rob onto the project and I kind of brought José on. I've for years had this kind of disgruntled attitude about the way people color Kelley's art, because he has such a lovely atmosphere and such a dark moodiness to his artwork, and colorists look at that and go, ooh, he's all dark and moody, I'm going to color it dark and moody. And it's like, no, he's already done that part of the equation. You don't need dark shades on his stuff. He's already drawn in all the shadows, all the atmosphere, all that beautiful line work and texturing. His work demands something vibrant to make all those shadows kind of pulsate with menace, So when José came on, I gave him that kind of art direction, and I specifically pointed him to some of the Italian giallo films, the horror movement of specifically Dario Argento's Suspiria, and most particularly Kelley and I were both real hot on Mario Bava's Black Sabbath, both of which are incredibly scary, horrifying films and have a just almost neon vibrancy to the color schemes. And José really brought that, and he also brought a couple of his own tricks to really give it a flavor, as if, even though we're trying to do something new, we also are embracing the era of comics that Kelley and I grew up reading and loving. And so we wanted a certain old school sort of approach as well, and José was able to give us that also. And it's just the perfect combination. Kelley says he thinks it's one of his favorite color jobs on his work ever.
I think so. And I think what he does, I would link it to film like Matt did. The old Technicolor had very black blacks and the colors were very bright. And I always really liked that period of film. Because when you'd see something in those films in the late 50s, early 60s, it just seemed brighter. It just seemed very colorful, even if the film had a lot of darks in it. And you see that, like most notably in Bava and Argento, you see that. And for Jose to take that and run, and really deliver a suggestion into a reality, I remember seeing him. The thing you want when you look at your stuff coming back colored isn't what somebody missed, but like, oh, it's like you have not seen it before. It just bang, it comes to life. Probably like a soundtrack to a filmmaker. When a good soundtrack is laid down, all of a sudden the emotions are all there. And that's what happened. It put all the emotion into it. I thought that when Jose was doing this, that he had a line on it, but I just feel he was very intuitive and nailed it. I didn't have to give too many notes, other than maybe a color change because of a character thing, not because of something wrong with his choices. They were just spectacular.
Love that filmic
Talk about
comparison
Rob.
too. Oh, sorry.
Cal, talk about Rob.
Great.
Oh, Rob I had worked with several times, and I tend to fill up panels too much, but that's just the enthusiasm of drawing. And I know the writers will go, I love it, but where do I put the balloons? And I've run into that a lot. And but every time Rob would have something come back, he would do wonderful balloon placements. And he knew not to cover. And if he did cover something, it was something extraneous. It was not the composition within the panel. And I always apologize to Rob, but I can't help it. If I see an empty area on a page, I've got to fill it. And I shouldn't. It's not necessary, but I do it.
It's your creator DNA, buddy.
It is. I can't help it. And the fact that he was a very gifted artist in the art of lettering, not just in the placement. His choices are very good. And when you ask him for something different, he gives it to you and you go, yeah, that works. That's a kind of a lost art in lettering. Maybe because Rob was a hand letterer now. In the beginning, he physically did it. One
of the things I love about Rob brought to the project is, again, this is Dracula's private journal. So the lettering feels very much like a journal, and it feels like Dracula's voice. Like he gave the caption boxes Dracula's personality.
Yeah, and he's also a good proofreader. A lot of letterers aren't. They'll just
many of those, believe me.
They'll just whatever it is they put down. Rob is a very good proofreader, or he'll say something like, I read this, could it be more clear, or is this what you mean, or whatever, and you go, that's a good catch. And so it's one more. He's got a lot of quivers in the arsenal, a lot of arrows in the quiver, I should say. So I began to trust him quite a bit on other gigs. I had a really bizarre story in a Batman story where he's drugged by the Scarecrow, and it had a lot of this weird stuff in there, and Rob kept it all straight, was able to put it on, and that was at that moment I said, this is the guy I'm always working with. He was catching stuff and bringing a different point of view to it, and that's letters are generally unnoticed, but when they're bad, you really notice it. And this is a guy that I just said I want him to get the positive notice.
So I remember hearing an old adage that comic book lettering should be the opposite of children. It should be heard and not seen.
Yeah.
Love that.
And Rob that off very, very well. Yeah. But it's neat to have Kelley bring in somebody like that. It's very akin to very individualistic auteur directors who tend to have their same cast of actors that they like to work with. Wes Anderson, of course, has a group like that. David Lynch. I'm a big fan of Mike Flanagan and this new take on the Fall of the House of Usher that's on right. It's like there's his same cast. He's using them all, and they're all in completely different roles than the last time you saw them. But as a creator, you get used to who you can rely on, and you really want to hold them close to your chest. And so it was really, really great that Cal was able to bring Rob along like that.
Yeah, and it made a team. It's like Matt and I got along like we'd always have been. These guys too. It was like we've been
Rob
doing.
really enjoyed it. Like he loves the book. Like he loves the story. So
Yeah,
that's always a big plus too. Oh, you
yeah,
dig it? Great.
yeah.
So curious about anything else in the process that you would want to mention. You mentioned earlier that you were expecting at some point to be working on Batman or something like that, but this is a sort of a freeing process from what you were saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like we mentioned earlier, this will end up being 4 graphic novels. So this is going to take
Mhm.
us, 4 to 5 years probably. We
Yeah.
picture doing one per year.
Yeah.
So it's a commitment of time for both of us, which is why at the very beginning I said to Kelley, "You sure? You serious?" Because
No,
once
and
we go
Matt
down
and
this
Matt
hole, man.
and Matt has told me, he says, they're going to be a varying length depending on how the story goes for him, which is
Mhm.
fine. I think that's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
the first one is 94 pages of art and story.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
I'm currently writing the second one. I'm about halfway through scripting it. Kelley's about a third of the way,
a
quarter
third.
of the way through drawing it, something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And it's looking to be more in the 120 page range.
Yeah.
So it'll vary. It'll be, it'll circle around that 100-page orbit, but some will be longer, some will be no, most will probably be longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm delighted to hear that it's book one of more to come,
Mhm.
and delighted to hear that it seems to be a brotherhood kind of collaboration. I'm imagining many more Dracula books on the way.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is our, when I approached Kelley, I was just like, this is just natural. This is the
Yeah.
project that's meant to be for us, where
Yeah.
this is the stuff we live and breathe,
Yeah, it is.
and we just love this shit. And so I just knew it was going to work out, and it's just worked out even better than I could have hoped, but I knew it was going to be awesome, and it's
Yeah,
awesome.
I had thought it would be good. I didn't know. I mean, I knew I would enjoy this. I didn't know it just would explode like this. I mean, I would look at it and I go, the difficult thing is you can't tell anybody. So
Right.
you begin to think, well, maybe and sometimes you're looking at something too much, and sometimes uh you don't have the correct perspective. This is one, having done enough, I knew this is
Mhm.
something, occasionally Matt would say, well, I showed a page here or two to someone, and I would do the same thing, just, another peer or something. And they would go bonkers.
Mhm.
And I went, okay, um uh that's a good sign. That's a good
Mhm.
sign.
Mhm.
Um
Or also,
and
on my end, it'd be, it'd been, I hadn't really, I don't want to say I hadn't looked at it because I had, but after several weeks would go by or a month or whatever, and I would just sit down and reread it,
Mhm.
and I'd contact Kelley and go, "Oh man, it's really good. It's really good.
yeah,
Like
I
we
went
really hit it."
after it was all lettered and colored. I didn't look at it for some time. You go on to other things, life and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I did. I sat down to get started to do the second one. I said, well, I'll sit down and read it. And it was like when he first told me about it. And it was like, what? But the difference is here it physically is now. It isn't this in the ether, and it hasn't been born yet. It's
It's
really
real.
there. It's
It's
yeah,
alive.
it
That's
is.
right. That's
It
right.
is. And I thought, okay, this I can be pretty proud of. This I'm pretty proud of. Some jobs you just say you did, other jobs you say, hey, look at what I just did. And it's one of
Mhm.
those. And I'm an old guy, so I'm thinking, to get me to say, look at what I did. I feel like like when you first have that first really good success. This is on the other side of it. It's like you want people to say, hey, you got better.
Mhm.
You didn't just go out, and that's when you are working with great people and you have a great story and all the things fall into place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a vital aspect of this project. I think is that between the two of us, Kelley and I have just a little over 80 years of experience in this
Well,
business, and we're at the stage where most people are slowing down and retiring even.
yeah.
Mhm.
And to find this level of mutually rewarding energy at this stage in our careers, it just feels, as he said, fresh and almost starting all over
It
again.
does.
rising from the grave, as it were.
It is.
I love it.
But I read things with emotion. I watch things with emotion. So I do things with emotion. So I don't really have, I don't, and I purposely in my life, or at least professional life, avoid any kind of trying to know the rules because I don't want to know what they are, you know?
Mhm, mhm,
And I let the emotion do the trick. And if there's something that I don't know how to do, I'll fake it, you know? I've done it long enough to know how to fake it. That's
your stuff doesn't look like you're faking it, pal.
well, I just mean something technical, you know, if there's a
No,
technical aspect to drawing. If Matt says, you know, something with 18-point perspective, I'll fake it.
I never say
Uh
18-point perspective.
I don't know. I'm guessing. But I can fake it. Here it's just the emotion of it. So I can play, and Matt tells stories to me very emotionally anyway. So they work as I do it. I think of it cinematically, far more than I do other things, very cinematically. And as if I were watching a film.
mhm,
And that adds a certain kinetic energy to this. That when I go back and look, even when my eyes are tight and everything, I go, it still has that thing. And that's only comes from the fact that you're working in that kind of emotion.
And that's I mean, that's always been my thing as a writer, when I'm writing for myself or when I'm writing for other artists like Kel. Is I'm constantly searching for that human reality, you know. I mean, all the fun shit, all the, you know, all the, in superhero terms, all the explosions and the big slam bang
mhm,
fights, all that stuff's important, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have the human connection there.
mhm, mhm,
And the human reality is that uh you know, it's there's a potential in each of us to be this kind of monster. You know, each of us could get wrapped up in our own self-aggrandizing bullshit.
mhm,
And you know, when you're working with a villain like that, that's the key, to be able to have the reader or the viewer, maybe not even consciously, but in the back of their mind going, "Ooh, I there's a part of that I recognize."
mhm,
You know?
mhm.
And
Well, and Matt didn't write him as a villain, but he's doing villainous things. He thinks he's completely justified.
yeah,
There's
yep,
never a moment of regret with him. And when he does regret things, they're not things that they're things you go, dude, that of all that you regret this little thing here. I mean, that's what's great about him. He doesn't do snidely whiplash.
Mhm,
no,
mhm,
And
no,
when
and
he,
you know, I to give credit where it's due, I constantly talk about the effect that Michael Moorcock's work had on me when I was young, and specifically
yeah.
Elric. You know,
Mhm.
it had a big factor in the creation of Grendel. Because you know, when you're reading the Elric stories, he's there again. He's magnetic. You're on his side the entire time. He does a whole lot of horrible shit.
Mhm.
You know, he ends up killing everybody that's ever dear to him,
Mhm.
and yet somehow you're still willing to kind of forgive him at the end. You know,
Right, right.
and that's the approach I took here with Dracula as well. You know,
Yeah.
it's never I'm never forgiving him, but you want to forgive him. You know, so
Tony Soprano, the vampire. Yes.
Tony Soprano the vampire.
Absolutely.
Amen,
Yeah.
brother. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, the way that you've described this book and just knowing your work from both of you, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see the pages of one and then more to come.
Yeah. Thank you.
We
Yeah.
can't wait for you to see it. Believe
Yeah.
me. like Kelley said, we've been sitting on a powder keg for a long
Yeah.
time
Oh
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We want people to see it so
Yeah.
bad.
It's that project on the board that it's like, oh, I wish I could tell them about this. So
Yeah,
glad
Yeah.
to
yeah.
hear about it. Now, any
And in keeping with that, I would say for anybody that's interested, if you go to Kickstarter and you search for Dracula Book One, The Impaler, you can
Mhm.
sign up and follow the campaign. The campaign's going to launch very soon, but if you sign up to follow it, you'll automatically get a notice when the launch goes live.
Matt just anticipated my transition. I
Oh,
love it.
there we go.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
The
Anything else
storyteller in
about the
me.
project? That's right. That's right. Anything else about the project that you want to mention? I believe you were going to mention Orlock Press as well.
Oh yeah, Orlock Press is the entity we came up with to handle the business side of this. And it's funny because when we first started talking about this and getting through the creative gestational stage, it became evident we were going to have to come up with a business entity like that. And very early on, I said, and we should call it something like Orlock Press. And Kelley went, "That's it. That's what we're calling it."
Yeah, it didn't need anything. I was thinking we either do something like what he came up with, or something that's totally opposite, like Honey and Flowers Press, or something nice,
Right.
Summer Breeze Press, something nice.
Butterfly Books.
Yeah,
That's
something
right.
something gentle and not, I was thinking of being sarcastic, but when Matt said that, it was perfect. And then Matt came up with a great logo, and it was like, and a logo is one that you want to wear, right? It's got to be one of those, that not just a logo to fill but when you go, that's cool. I mean, that it's just cool onto its, even if you didn't care about whatever it is, you go, that's a good logo. I suck at that kind of design work, and that's one thing Matt excels at, is doing those kind of things.
We also just today unveiled. I did a variant cover, so Kelley's is the main cover, but I did a variant cover, so buyers will have a choice, and and you could even buy both.
I would buy both.
Yes,
but I'm a
yes,
shill.
Yes, I saw that cover. It looks great.
It does.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Butterfly Books, for kids.
And here I have a funny story about the cover too. We both knew we were going to do covers. We both set out to do covers, and we started to do covers. And we were showing each other them as we went along. And suddenly I hit a point where I was like, "Dude, we got to stop. We got to go in a totally different direction. These are just too ordinary. They're not. They're just kind of a character shot. Whereas we need something enormous here. We need something big and chunky. And this character is so familiar. We don't just want to see him. It's got to be right up in your face. And so we both went back to the drawing board and came up with something.
Yeah, I think
much better than our first efforts.
Everything we were doing would work great as a pinup or a first page.
Yeah.
That it would work, and I'd look at it, and that's where it's discombobulating, is because you look at it and you finish that day and go, that looks really good, and then you go back the next day and go, it's not in your face enough. It's not loud enough. And
my thing is like, is this going to jump off the shelves at me?
Yeah.
Is this going to
be when you're across the
yes.
and you see, and you're looking at just these, does it stick out in a sea of colors and odd things? And it did.
But that's the process and the level of communication we have, where I could say, dude, stop. We're fucking this up. We got to start over.
Well, what happens is
Kelley was like, yeah, you're right.
We were just, like you said, overthinking it. And that was one of the things. When you've done this long and you're with people you trust, it doesn't bother you to have to do it again. Because you both know your gut is telling you. If it tells you it's right, you trust it. If it tells you it's wrong, you trust it.
We were overthinking it, as you said, but we were also facing up against the enormous amount of Dracula imagery that already exists.
There it is.
So we were trying to come up with a single image that would speak as boldly as the we feel the story itself did.
Yeah. Well, I am 11 out of 10 excited to see it.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you both. I know that we're coming up on an hour. Thank you both for spending some time with me.
You betcha. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We obviously love talking about this book. So
yeah, we do.
Yeah. I love it. And thank you for talking with me about it. Anything that we've missed that you want to make sure to tag in at the end?
I think we covered all the bases.
Pretty good. Right. It's a nice big, going to be a nice, great, big, hefty hardcover. That's what we wanted, and that's what we're gonna.
It's also European album format. It's 8.5 by 11, not American comic book size.
Yeah.
Nice. An epic volume. Epic volume. Well, thanks again to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.